Good morning. This is Mary Dees. I am the founder of the Love of My Life to Death podcast and the owner of domestichomicide.com, where we try to provide support, awareness, and change for those experiencing domestic violence and survivors of domestic homicide. I have the honor and privilege of introducing Shelly Hernandez. She is actually a personal friend of mine since my sister's passing. I have gotten to know her over the last 2+ years. After my sister passed, she approached me through Facebook, introduced herself, and I have just adored our friendship since then. She's provided a lot of information in regards to the last time that she was able to go to lunch with my sister, which was only a few days prior, and just really to help me navigate the Houston area and what was going on during this time where I didn't know anyone and I was trying to find out who her friends were, who really knew her, who was just trying to get information from me because of what had occurred. And she came as a true friend. She's been there constantly. And then she shared with me, which I have her as a guest today to share with you guys on the changes she made in her life because of such a tragedy. So Shelly, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this. I truly love you and I hope that we remain friends for many years to come. And I just would like to give you the floor and let you introduce yourself and how you knew my sister. You call her Reese, I call her Trish. So if the names get changed throughout the podcast, everyone will know that we're speaking of the same person. Welcome so much.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, to be honest with you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and also allowing me to be your friend. It's an honor to get to know you. I know that it's not the best way, but I'm happy to call you my friend.
Thank you.
I am in Houston and I am here to help as much as I can. And I'm here to share a little bit about my story too. And hopefully it helps somebody else.
Well, it is. I'm honored, like I said, for you to be here. So how did you know Trish, Reese?
Okay, I met Reese through work. We owned a remodeling company at that time. And it so happened that she made connection with my ex, and we were out there um, remodeling her houses that she had up for sale. Prior to her death, I had known her maybe for 3 years, and we got closer, this last year before everything happened. But yeah, it was through work, and at the beginning, it was just business because I couldn't really talk to her about my situation or anything like that. But after a little while, we would always talk about meeting up for lunch or going out and getting our nails done. But because of her busy schedule and because of me being in a situation that I was in, I couldn't really say or dictate much about my schedule. So we really didn't have a chance to sit, before the last year. But thank God that I was able to get a little bit closer to her a year prior to the situation. And we were able to share lunch dates, I guess you want to call them. And you know, our nail appointment was still pending.
No. Yeah,
But
she
yes.
did. She did love her friends and she, always cherished the time to enjoy a lunch or a meal or a conversation with people that she loved. I definitely had found that out from the people that came to me, afterwards, sharing with me their personal stories. But I also know as her sister and as my family members have shared that she never took those times for granted. She may be too busy to have long conversations on the phone with you, but when she was actually with you, it was really, she had a way of making people feel very, very special. And I hope that, she made you feel that way.
Oh yeah, it was always something about we were always joking about something. It was always laughter. It was just joy, just joy to be around her. And I just our last meeting that I was able to get with her, We met at what's that Chinese restaurant called?
PF
Something
Chang's.
Chains.
PF Chang's.
Yeah, PF Chang's. That was the spot. So we went there December the 1st, and I think it was December the 1st or the 2nd. I think it was the 1st. But we met there. I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with a lot. But I
And
wasn't gonna miss.
And
I'm sorry.
just to let everyone know, this is December 1st, December 2nd. She passed on December 6th of 2021. So this is just a few days prior to, the tragedy occurring.
Yes. And I was not gonna miss. For whatever reason, it's like I needed to be there. I didn't care what is it that I needed to do, even though I didn't have a phone. I didn't have keys to my truck at that time because the prior night or the night before, I had went through a situation with my ex, I guess you want to say, where he took my keys, he took my phone, he took my wallet, he took everything from me that night before. But I was able to get a hold of my daughter's phone, and I was able to text her through social media. And I said, "Hey, Reese, it's me, Shelly. I want to meet you at this time at the place that we already had talked about." And I was able to find my keys. So I grabbed my keys and I was able to leave the house, and I did meet with her. At first I didn't open up about my situation because I didn't really want to talk about me. I wanted to, just spend time with her and just have a good time. We did talk about business that day, but then after a minute, I told her that, hey, I had to text you through my daughter's phone. I said, because I don't have my phone. And she's like, why? What happened? And that's whenever I started telling her, what I had went through the night before. And she was in disbelief too. And then, with things that I said, she kind of opened up to her situation, and I was in shock. I was like, Reese, how, why? But we just talked about, her situation. I talked about mine, and I was in disbelief whenever she told me that she was going through basically the same thing that I was dealing with at the time. And we sat there, we talked, we laughed, we cried, and it's just something that I'm always going to cherish. That I'm glad that I was able to meet with her on that day, and I wish that I could have done more for her. I wish that I could have been there. I mean, I did call her the following day to just touch base with her, because we ended up being that she wanted me to come work with her. She wanted me to come to her office. We were gonna, you know, be a great team, because she didn't have anybody who spoke Spanish at the time, and she just wanted me to join her team, and she wanted me to leave my situation. But at the time, I was too scared. I was too scared to pick up and leave and say, you know what, I'm done, because it's not easy. It's not easy to just pick up and go. But her plan was that she was going to help me get out of that situation. And she did. She
Wow.
did help me. She did help me, even though she's not here physically, or, she did help me. I mean, it's hard for me to open up about my situation because I've never really talked about it. But you, Mary, and Reese have helped me be where I'm at right now. And it's sad that Reese's not around right now, but I know that she knows that in my heart, she helped me the way that things needed to happen at the time. And I'm here. I'm here today. I'm here to help you, Mary, and I'm here to help somebody out there, hopefully, to understand that there is hope and there is help out here. Just speak up.
Right.
Don't keep quiet. Don't keep quiet, because we we are in situations sometimes where we're afraid of everything that's out there, and we're just in our little bubble thinking that it's okay for us to remain silent and keep on living what we're living. But
Right.
it's not. It's not. And I don't want anything happening to somebody that's out there just because they're afraid to say something. And Reese didn't want to open up to anybody, because her reason being is that she was going to leave as soon as Olivia graduated, and she already had a plan that she was going to go back home, and it didn't happen. And then I just don't understand why she couldn't say much, why she didn't leave if she had the ability.
Right.
But like the last time that you, Mary, and I spoke, I was sitting in the restroom crying, and I was telling you, Mary, that I couldn't take it anymore. And I remember your words, and you told me, Shelly, please walk away. My sister couldn't leave with her life. Please do it for yourself.
Right.
Those words stuck to me, even though it took me another month or so, but I would always think about you crying with me on that phone, asking me to leave, to walk away with my life, not to let anything happen to me or my kids.
Right.
And thank God I found the courage with your help, in Reese's name too. I found the courage to pick up and leave. I'm not saying it's easy, but hey, it is possible.
Right.
I'm going on 2 years of being apart from this person, and I'm still alive,
That is
even
amazing.
though,
So proud of you.
thank you. And it's your help. You helped me a lot. Okay. You have helped me a lot, and you have no idea, but you, Mary, have helped me a lot, and Reese's name too. But, like I told Reese before, hey, I've dealt with guns in my face, and Reese's like, oh, me too. I was like, Reese, what? And she told me, she's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, he's done it so many times, but he wouldn't ever do anything. That's what she would say. And she said that that was a way of him trying to intimidate her just for her to be afraid of him. But Reese wouldn't think that it would ever happen, but it happened. And
But my sister, Reese, she was so strong. Does it surprise you now that this occurred, that he supposedly did put a gun, pointed at her in the past, and that she didn't walk away saying that, this is wrong. This
it
is
di- it did surprise me whenever she said she dealt with that too. I mean, I was in shock. I was like, Reese, how could you deal with that? You're a very professional person, you're a very talented person, successful real estate agent. I told her, why do you put up with this? She's
right,
like, oh, she just didn't want to, I guess, take the father away from her daughter, Olivia. And it's like, sometimes we do a lot of things for our kids that we don't really think that we're doing. Instead of us doing something productive, we're actually damaging them more.
yeah,
And like she told me many times, Olivia didn't know much what was going on because she didn't want to damage that image that Olivia had of her dad. So she kept everything closed doors and away from her as much as she could.
right.
And I mean, it did surprise me a lot that she could relate to me in many things that I was dealing with at the time and that I have dealt for the last 20 years. And
Did she ever tell you there was any physical abuse? Because everyone that I've spoken to, it was emotional, it was financial, it was the, pointing the guns. But as far as physically, hitting her, touching her, pushing her, did you have any idea? Did she share with you that that occurred or not?
I mean, there was, whenever somebody's intoxicated and and all they want to do is just hurt you, they come around, and she dealt with that kind of stuff too. She dealt with that kind of stuff too, pushing around, calling names, a physical, verbal, mental abuse, and like you said, financial too. You know, I mean, she dealt with that kind of stuff too. But like she said, she kept it to herself because, she didn't want to be judged, I guess, in a way. She didn't want people thinking otherwise about her situation. I mean, it's like for us that been in this situation where we're being abused physically, mentally, and verbally and financial. Sometimes we put up I guess we put up like a facade saying that we're fine, everything's gonna be okay in our mind, but deep inside we know it's not okay. But then again, we're afraid. We're scared to open up. We're scared to say something. But yeah, she dealt with that kind of stuff too,
Wow.
especially when he would drink. I mean, God only knows what she went through.
Right. And
From
she didn't share that information with me because she knew how I would respond. And I hate that she didn't feel more comfortable. So there's a lot of guilt that I hold because of, not being the type of person that she could have easily come to and say, Mary, this is what's going on and I really need help. Um, the exit strategy, I think that I've learned over the last couple of years in talking with others that are in situations of domestic violence, that you cannot share your exit strategy with very many people. I mean, you only share that with the closest to you, and you definitely don't share it with the person that you're trying to escape from. And I
Yeah.
know for a fact, I have heard her, in talking with him, that, Carrie, as soon as Oli graduates, I'm moving to Orlando with or without you. And you just, looking back, you can't do that. You have to keep that information close if you're going through an abusive relationship. Because Houston, Texas is where he's from. So, someone that is controlling, narcissistic, wanting it his way, they're not going to easily accept the fact that you're leaving, much less leaving to a different state. So I
They're
think,
losing control and they can't handle that. If they feel that they're losing control, they're gonna find a way to regain control. And with Carrie being Carrie, obviously in front of you, he was a sweet Carrie, right? He
yes,
was this big, like she called him, big old lovable teddy bear.
right,
And that's what she was afraid of, that nobody would believe her because of him and his actions around you guys or around other people, in front of other people. I'm sure Carrie treated her really nice around other people. Carrie was a gentleman. And it is hard. It's hard now to know that he was really a monster. And I'm sorry that I'm expressing myself this way because that's what he is. He's
right,
a coward. He's a monster. Why would he put his hands on a woman to begin with? Why? If he was such a gentleman. But in front of other people, they pretend to be this gentleman, this, great father, great husband. What really, to be honest, they're not. Obviously, right?
right.
I mean, in my situation, I mean, we served at church. I knew that our family was falling apart, but we would go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Monday. You know, we served at church. I used to serve in the children's department, and I had to tell my upper person, that I couldn't serve because my mental, me myself, I couldn't help other kids. I couldn't talk about the Bible whenever I was feeling the way that I was feeling some Sundays. You know,
Right.
we served at church. My kids served at church. Everybody at church thought that I had the perfect family, but nobody at church ever knew what was going on until now that they see me go to church by myself. Now they understand. Now they see, that, oh, it wasn't perfect. I have 4 kids with this person. And since I separated last year in April, uh, we haven't heard from him. We haven't seen him. He hasn't looked for the kids. He hasn't provided in any kind of way. And you know what? My kids are doing way better. My kids are telling me, thank you, Mom, for walking away. There's times that we go to breakfast or we're eating breakfast at home and they're like, thank you, Mom. Or sometimes I'm cooking in the kitchen and they come and hug me and they tell me thank you. And for that, it's thanks to you, Mary.
Oh,
Thanks to you, like I said, and thanks to Reese too, that unfortunately Reese's not here again, but her situation and by you talking to me, helped me gain that courage to try to walk away. I mean, I was with my ex, I guess, for the last 20 years, and I've slept with him. I'm
how
just grateful to be
how many times prior to this last time did you try or consider leaving?
many times, many times where my family already had lost hope. I would leave to my parents. And then a week later, I was back again because he would go over there. He would sweet talk. He would tell my parents, oh, I'm sorry, I messed up. That was at the beginning, right? Whenever we were younger. I would like try to get away from him, but it's just so hard, especially when I'm 20 years old, 25 years old, not having a stable job. not having money, because obviously he would take everything that I would make, and daycare would take all my money, because I just didn't have any control over anything at that time when I was younger. Every check that I would make, it would go pay bills, take care of daycare, take care of milk, diapers. It was basically, I was like a single mom since the beginning. But even though I had a person, or whatever you want to call them, beside me, me, it was always on a survival mode. And a lot of people ask me, why do you put up with it? You know what? I've asked that question too, but at the time I was scared. You know, I was scared to, what are people going to say? I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to provide for my kids. I was scared that, I'm going to be a single mom with two kids at the time. What am I going to do with no car, no money, you know? And that's what held me for a long time, that I didn't, in my mind is like, oh, I'm not going to take the father of my kids away from them, because I'm being prideful or I'm doing this. But no, my kids are older now. My two oldest, I have a 19 and an 18-year-old. Those are the ones that really went through a lot with me. I mean, there was times that it would be raining. There was times that it would raining and cold, and I would be out in the street with my kids because he decided to kick me out at whatever time. And the only people that I could call at that time was my mom and my dad, and they would come and pick me up. Even though my parents would come and pick me up, they would always try to tell me to, stay away, stay away, do your own thing over here. But me, no, I needed to go back to the father of my kids, because my kids need their father. But at the same time, I was doing more damage to them, I guess, emotionally and mentally. But I mean, it took me 20 years to walk away. I did try to separate from him so many times, where my parents and my sister would say, you know what? If you're not leaving him this time, don't even call me if you plan to go back again. Because I would always go back thinking that it would get.
And that's the hard part where I stand today, because even when we spoke that time you were in the bathroom, you know, it's so obvious and so easy for the person that's on the other end of the phone to say, why are you doing this? You need to leave. You need to be brave. You need to do this. But when you're in it, I'm assuming that that is such a larger, hurdle to even try to figure out, especially when you have children involved, especially when you have limited finances, or, where you're going to go. But was there any time that if you are able to share, was there any time that you felt like your life was being threatened in a more serious way, such as my sister's?
I mean, in the past, I dealt with a lot of threats. In the past, I mean, I've been choked to the point where my whole, what do you call them, pores turned purple. In the past, I had guns held to my head. But after Reese's passing, it just got serious. After Reese's passing, he would drink and he would tell me, oh, keep on acting stupid, excuse my word. I mean, there was other words too being
Right.
used. He would keep on saying, keep on acting, and you're gonna get what she got, and
Oh,
that got
wow.
to me. Yeah.
I
And
never
in
knew
front of
that.
my kids.
In
I'm
front of your
sorry.
kid, yeah, I don't think you ever shared that with me. In front of your
I
kids?
did. Yes, in front of my kids, there were several times, that there would be times that he would just drink and he would come home, whether the kids were sleeping or not. He would come banging on the doors, waking everybody up, just to be torturing, I guess, torturing mentally, physically. It was just torture. For the last year that I was there, for the last months, it was just torture. My kids had school in the morning. They couldn't sleep because he didn't want them to sleep, you know. He would just have them sometimes standing for no reason. And my oldest is the one that suffered the most. And I regret it to this day. And I regret it with all my heart that I still waited for so long for me to walk away. You know, that I left April of 2023, and that December of 2022, everything was fine. We went to Wings. I brought the kids home because it was already late. He stayed at the Wayne place, still drinking, watching a football game. It was a Sunday, I think. And we came home around 2 o'clock in the morning. My kids were, for whatever reason, they were up. And I kept on texting them, y'all go to sleep. Please go to sleep. I don't want to get home and you guys are up. Please go to sleep. Because I already knew he was drunk. And I already knew that it was like walking on eggshells. And that day, sure enough, we come home. Apparently, my daughter was talking to a friend from school, which is a guy, and he didn't approve. It was like hell broke loose that day. You know, he beat me because I was interfering from him hitting the kids. He got an extension cord. He hit my daughter. He hit my son. And I got in between and I told him, stop. I said, stop it. You can't do this to them. They're your kids. And he just didn't understand. You know, he was so blinded by the alcohol and the rage because she was talking to a boy that I think that was that was the last of it. I guess you want to say that I said, you know what, this is it. This is it. The cops came. That day, the cops came. Okay. My son, I shouldn't say this, but you know, they're like, enough, mom, we can't take this no more.
Right.
The cops showed up. My son, my daughter said, you know what, it's nothing. It was a misunderstanding. And because we're all scared of him, you know, they didn't want to say, oh yeah, they didn't show the cop, you know, the marks in their backs. You know, I was bleeding from my mouth and my nose, and the cop asked me, are you okay? And obviously I'm like bleeding, and I'm like, you don't see that I'm not okay? You know,
Right.
deep inside, I wanted to say, no, I'm not okay. Deep inside, I was like, he needs to go. But the way that the system works, I knew he would be out the next day. So obviously I told the cop, oh, it's just a misunderstanding. You know, my daughter was talking to a kid or a guy on the phone and he didn't like that. You know, it's a jealous father thing. So the cop is like, oh, I understand. I have a daughter too, you know. So what they did,
So
they took him to a hotel.
siding with him.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I'm over here bleeding, like I'm wiping my blood and I had a paper towel full of blood, but it's like,
Wow.
I was just in disbelief that the officer didn't really acknowledge the fact that I was bleeding and my kids were like crying, obviously. But they just took him to a hotel room.
Hmm.
They took him to a hotel, I guess, down the street. 2 hours later, he's knocking at the door.
Right.
2 hours later, he's knocking at the door. He got home like around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, he went straight to his room
Mm.
because I guess he saw that, you know, the cops were around and everything was fresh. He didn't do anything. He just went straight to the room and locked himself in the room and stayed there. But that was in December. And, you know, this last altercation that we had, my kids were like, Mom, we can't take it no more. You need to do something. You need to do something. And there was just no reason for him to explode that day. But he did. He came home. Supposedly he wasn't drinking, but I could smell the alcohol in him. He started hitting me for allowing my son to go get a haircut because he was driving the truck that I had at the time. He got mad. He came home. He hit my son. At that time, my son was what, 16? And he just came at me, and I'm over here trying to tell him, you know, it's okay, stop. You know, I was trying to sweet talk. I'm like, okay, babe, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. But he wouldn't understand. So my daughter at the time, she got in between and she's hugging him, which is my youngest one. She got in between. She hugged me and she's telling him, Dad, stop, stop, Dad, stop. But he wouldn't understand. So he threw a big old Arizona drink towards me. And I had my daughter, she was hugging me. So I was able to get, I guess, dodge the can because it was full. And he was just coming at me. And I'm over here trying to walk away from him, trying to talk to him, trying to tell him, hey, the neighbors are outside. Please stop. But he wouldn't stop. And thank God that the cops came. And thank God that that day I found the courage to step out. Because whenever the officer showed up at the house, he locked all the doors. You know, he was like, let's lock the doors, you know, and he wanted us to get our dog out because we have a German Shepherd. He's like, get the dog out, get the dog out. But at that time, he couldn't open up his room because he had changed the locks to the room.
Hmm.
And while he was trying to open up his room to get into his room, I told him, no, I need to open the door. I said, I need to talk to the officers because if I don't talk to them, they're not going to leave. So I was able to open the door that day. And as soon as I opened the door, the officer said, "Are you okay?" And I looked at him and I'm like, I kind of just like kept it to myself, but I said no. And he's like, "Come outside, come outside." But he told me to come outside, but my kids were inside with him. And I'm like, "My kids?" They're like, "No, no, no." And so they dragged me out of the house and they were able to come inside. By the time that the officers came inside, he already had opened the door to the room and he was able to jump out of the window. Our restroom window is like
Oh,
not too
wow.
big. I don't know. I don't know how he fit through that little bathroom window, but he was running from the cops. And my kids were like in disbelief, like they were making a joke out of it after the fact, saying that he was acting so macho man with us, but with the officers, he ran from them. But that was the day that I was able to walk away. I didn't have anything to my name. I only had a vehicle and clothes. I didn't have no money, but my sister was able to provide and lend me some money at the time, and I was able to get myself an apartment. And since then, I've been away from my situation. But it's just, it's not easy to walk away, Mary. It's not easy to just pick up and leave. It's not easy to just say, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm done. It's not. There's just something that keeps on bringing you back if you ever do walk away. Whenever you feel that you care for that person, you feel that, oh, you're going to be able to change them, or I'll be able to help them. That's how I used to think when I was younger. Oh, he went through a lot when he was growing up. But it was his choice to act the way that he did. It
Right.
was his choice to raise his hand and hit me or hit my kids.
Right.
It's not something that you can say, oh, he had no control. Yes, they have control over a lot of situations. And they choose violence. They choose to act the way that they do, you know. And for me, it's new. I've never really talked to anybody about my situation. That day that I opened up to Reese, I was scared. I was scared telling Reese my situation because I'm like, oh my gosh, Reese's gonna probably go and, talk some mess to him and try to stand up to him. But she didn't. She didn't. But she was ready. She's like, girl, you need to get out. We're gonna get you out of that situation. She's like, I'm gonna help you get out of that situation. You count on me. She's like, count on me and I'm going to help you. And I was so grateful and thankful, because I was able to talk to her, because I'm sure Reese thought that my ex was, cool, thought that, he was, because if you meet him out in the street, you would think that he's fun, that he's a great guy, but, it's like everything.
Right.
It's like everything, out in public, it's one thing, but behind doors is a totally different monster.
Right. But my sister was true to her word and did get you out of that situation. And that's the amazing part about the story, that how she was able to do it is not a way that we would have wanted, but it helped.
That's
And
true.
you're the brave one. You're the one that made the steps to, you know,
Was a very strong human being. As a woman, she was very strong, very intelligent. I mean, I admire Reese since the very first day that I met her. And, she was just very firm with what she needed to get done, and she wanted to get it done, and it was going to get done. And, it was her job. It was her name out there on anything that she touched. She made sure that it was done right, and she made sure that everything was going to get done in a timely manner. And that's what she did. She's like, Shelly, you're going to get out of that situation. We're going to get you out of that situation. It's like, okay, Reese, all right, whatever you say. But she got me out of that situation a year later.
yes.
And
Yeah.
sad that she's not around to see and for us to work together, because you were going to be part of this crew too, Mary. But I mean, it's just like, that week after that day that I met with her, I mean, I texted her because I was scared. I was scared that she was going to say something, because he already had told me, if you ever open your effing mouth to anybody, you're going to be sorry and this and that. And I was so scared that Reese would bring something up or anything like that, but she never did. And on top of that, that day that we met for lunch, I texted her the following day. She didn't respond. I just texted her to touch base and tell her that I was ready, to work with her. She didn't respond for whatever reason. I texted her the following day, and there's several text messages on her phone that I texted just checking on her, but she didn't respond. And then until that day, I was at work. Whenever my ex called me, he's like, "Have you talked to Reese?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Are you sure?" I was thinking that at that time that Reese had called him to tell him, something about our conversation. I said, "No, why? What's going on?" He's like, "Well, I'll tell you when you get home." I was like, "Oh." And as soon as I walk into the house, he was sitting outside. I mean, because Reese was a friend to him too, And he's sitting outside and he's like, "Well, Reese's gone." I said, "What do you mean she's gone?" He's like, "Yeah, Carrie called me right now." I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "He said he shot her." I was like, "No." And it's just like, when he said that, I was like, "This fucker killed her." I was like, "No." I said, "No, that can't happen." And I was shaking, I was crying, I was yelling, and I was saying, "No, it was him. He did it. He did it. He did it." And sure enough, he did it. But that's how I found out about Reese, my friend Reese, and she was supposed to help me, and I was supposed to help her too.
Right.
But like I said, yeah, I hope if there's somebody that ever listens to this podcast or anything like that, I hope that they understand that it is possible. I know that they're scared. I know that it's a hard situation to deal with. I know that we feel lost. I know that we feel alone, but I'm sure if we say something, I'm sure that there's always somebody that's willing to help without judging you.
Right.
We just have to just open up, and we just have to be ready more than anything. Be ready to say, "You know what, enough is enough."
Mhm.
Because if we are scared and we're just afraid of never leaving, sometimes, here lately I've been seeing a lot of headlines about women being killed because they took their husbands or ex-husbands back. There was just this lady not too long ago. She was shot and left for dead. And then there's another one that her kids lost their life because she took the ex-husband back and she's gone too. So it's scary.
It is.
It's scary. It's scary and it's sad.
Every day.
Now it's an everyday thing too. It's like every time you open up the news, it's always something. And I know that there's a lot of women out there that are living this situation and they're scared.
Right.
They're afraid that they're not going to be able to provide. But hey, as long as you have a peace of mind and you have peace, I think sometimes I'm at home and it's like, I don't care if I don't have food in my refrigerator, but I have peace. My kids are able to sleep. My
Right.
kids are able to sleep a full night. They don't have to be stressing about the fact that somebody's going to come and knock the door down. Their dad is going to come and knock the door down. No, they don't have to be afraid of that anymore. Now they can go to school rested. Before they would go to school sometimes tired because they didn't get any sleep, or because in the morning, they did something wrong and they had to clean the whole house before they left,
Mm.
mop the floor in their knees. They don't have to do all that no more. It's just insane what we go through and we don't really talk about.
Right.
But like my kids and I regret myself. I regret staying for so long. I regret putting my kids through this situation for so long. But like I said, in my mind, I thought I had a family. I didn't want to break my family. I didn't want to break my kids. I don't even know how to put it in words. I just didn't want to leave because I didn't want my kids growing up without a father.
Right.
And look at us now. The father's not even around. It's like we did him a favor. I think I was holding on to something that I never had for too long.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just me and my kids, and a dog.
I know in the trial, they brought up the fact that there was no reported domestic violence through police. And it is so important because in hearing your story, the times that, well, they didn't do a report or they came out and, they sent him away or did this, the reporting aspect is so important because it allows the court system to see historically what this relationship, what this family dynamic is actually versus, oh well, there's been no reported cases. I was very disappointed because I had spoken to so many of you guys, her friends, that knew of situations that were absolutely considered domestic abuse, you know, as we talked about the emotional, the financial. They didn't talk to you guys. They didn't talk to me about, you know, situations where I have witnessed, you know, the financial abuse or the, you know, the anger that would arise, maybe not towards her, but just towards people in general. Um, I keep thinking that there's a way to have a register of people that have been, you know, abusers in domestic situations, just like a sexual abuser registry, where if you know, plan on getting in a relationship with someone, it's, you know, if you are convicted or you have a history of domestic abuse, that we're kind of warned, you know, you live next to a sexual predator. We have that information. Why don't we have a national, because people do move from state to state, like a national registry for domestic abusers? And I think that that would be something, you know, to help. I don't know the answer of preventing, you know, these severe domestic violence or domestic homicide cases, but at least it's a start. We have to do something. We have to figure out, you know, how to prevent it. What are your thoughts? Would you use a registry like that, going into a new relationship after you've been through an abusive relationship? Would it be important for you to know the person that you are, you know, possibly dating?
I mean, yeah, it's important, right? But at the same time, the reports, they start with us being in a situation. There's me, myself, had to call it out so many times. I'm sorry, there was a lot of times that the cops, when my kids were younger at the time, they would come and I would always say, oh no, it's my fault. Oh no, it's my fault. So there was really never reports made. Back in 2000, for me, 2000, I think 8 or 7, the state picked up charges because I refused to put charges on him because I was so scared if he went to jail, he was going to come out and he was going to do what he said he was going to do if he ever landed in jail.
Right.
Okay. When we were younger, he would always tell me if he ever ended up in jail because of me, that I was going to regret it for the rest of my life. Okay. So the state picked up charges. I was so scared to talk to the DA. I was so scared that I would avoid their calls, you know? So they ended up dropping the
Right.
case that they had against him towards me. They dropped it. They did pick it up. They did pick up a case on my younger baby, Davian. Well, now he's 18, where he had markings, you know, that he had hit him. But me being so scared and so stupid, excuse my word, I told the people, you know, oh, he fell, he hit himself with a toy. It was a lie. I lied to cover him, you know. I was so ignorant and I was so stupid at the time, thinking that I was doing something productive, you know.
Right.
Imagine if I would have been the one dead out there.
Right.
Oh, you know, there's no history on myself either because you know why? I was so scared to say something. But yes, it would be good to have a system where you can enter their names. And if you can upload photos, that would be great, you know, to help somebody out there, you know, because I'm sure there's somebody out there dating that person thinking that they won the lottery, but little do they know that with time, you know,
Right.
they transform to these monsters that they don't even know, you know. But police reports, they do tell a story, but at the same time, you know, we have to be honest whenever we open up a case, you know, we have to just go through with it. But it's just so hard, Mary, to open up a case and say, you know what, put it on paper. This is what happened to me, because you're scared.
Right.
I'm scared. I was scared many times. But I mean, if there would be a system, like I said, out there to help somebody out, that would be great. But then again, there's a lot of women that don't believe what's out there, because, we're just jealous of them, but no, we're not, we're just trying to help them out.
Right. And
But
the training of law enforcement, which I know that they do a lot of domestic violence training, the red flags that should be, seen or known. They should know that the person that they're speaking to that's saying, oh, it's my fault. No, nothing happened. They should see through that. I mean, we need to hold
there's,
them a little more accountable to, you know, forcing it's hard because you can't force someone to leave. The police officer telling you to leave was not going to provide you the strength and bravery of actually leaving. It was getting to a point where, you're crying in a bathroom, knowing your situation, where it was like, no more excuses. I have to do this. But we have to have a system of support, organizations out there that, are funded to help those, especially in, knowing that a lot of the control is financial control. So people that do get the courage to leave are usually leaving with very little, possibly
or
only
nothing.
clothes on their back. So there has
Yes.
to be funding through the state, through the, national government. There needs to be answers on a larger scale to stop this abuse and allow people to start fresh without a person.
Yes, and also counseling more than anything, because me, myself, I mean, there is help out there. I'm sure there is, but they're overwhelmed with all these cases that are going around. I mean, it's sad that there's women out there that are getting the help, and it's sad that they choose to go back just because they had the little break. It's sad, you know? Me, myself, I haven't received any type of help from the government or anything like that. The only thing that they did help me was with counseling for me, and they only helped me with 6 sessions, which was once a week. But it helped.
Right.
It helped me understand that I wasn't doing anything wrong at the time. It helped me understand that it wasn't my fault, you know?
Right.
I mean, that helped me a lot. And that gave me more courage to keep on pushing forward for my kids, because I couldn't go back. I can't go back, and I'm not going to go back for sure. But, there is resources out there, but you just have to dig, and you have to, like, it's like climbing a mountain to try to get some help. And it's not easy to get help. And the women that do have the help, sometimes it's sad that they only abuse it and then they go back, they abuse the system and then they go back. But for the people that are, or the women that are really, I mean, it's not only women that are getting abused, there's men in situations too. I
There
just met, I just met one of our technicians. He came because I work at a warehouse. He came to install a ATM, because we have several banks here. And he was telling me, because I was telling him about, because he saw my receipt bracelet on my computer at the warehouse. And he's like, "What's that?" Yeah, I have it too. It's in my truck. And I was like, "Oh, that's my friend." I said, she was dealing with domestic violence, and her, whatever you want to call them at that time, shot her. He's like, "That's crazy." And he's a guy from Spain. He's huge. I would never think that he dealt with domestic abuse from his ex-wife. He said he dealt with it for 7 years. And
Yeah.
I told him that I was gonna, have a podcast, today. And he's like, "Yes, please speak for all of us."
Yes.
So, I mean, it's crazy how there's people that just are dealing with a lot, and we're just so scared to open up and say something. It's But the resources, it's very hard to get help. It would be, I'm here to help anybody that's needing help. Like I told you, and like it, like, if I can help somebody out there, I don't care if they can come stay with me. I will open my door for anybody out there. I have friends that I know that they're dealing with stuff, and I've offered them, I don't care what time it is, just come to my house, just call me, I'll go pick you up. But they don't leave because of the financial situation.
Right.
You know, I have a friend, she has 2 kids. That's all she wanted. But for whatever reason, she's pregnant. She's telling me she's not happy. And I'm telling her she's never worked in her life. And that's something that us women, sometimes we settle with what we have, you know?
Right.
But whenever it comes to the government providing or funding, that would be great. That would be great for people that are out there, you know, knowing that there is help. Whenever I was in my situation, a lot of people would tell me, why don't you leave? You can get food stamps, you can get this, you can get that. No, it's not that easy, you know? At least for me, I can't get food stamps. At least for me, I can't get my rent paid from the government. I can't because I have a job. And supposedly, according to the government, I make too much money. How do I make money? I don't have a lot of money. I don't know where they get their numbers from, but I have 4 kids. I have a rent. My rent is almost $2,000 a month because it's not cheap.
Right.
My light bill, my water bill, food, and everything. But according to the government, I make too much money. So whenever it comes to getting assistance, it's hard. But like you said, if it would be great if they have some type of funding for these this kind of situations, you know. But
And I don't know the answers, and I don't know if I'll ever know the answers, but the more we talk about it, the more we share stories, the more that we, bring up people like my sister that, she had a lot of opportunities. She, financially, she had a great job. She was educated. She was, all of these things that you think would be easy, but because of the controlling husband that she had, it didn't matter how much money she made because she didn't have control of that money. So, regardless of your economic status, regardless of your, male, female, regardless of your education, this domestic violence is the numbers are just extremely high where it's affecting all aspects of, not just our country, all over the world. I mean, there was one of the Olympians that passed away. Her husband set her on fire. I mean, it's just happening way too often, and we have to do something about it. It's just like any other disease or pandemic or whatever it is. We have to find an answer. We have to put a stop to it. And the only way we do that is by making sure that we don't stop talking about it, that answers have to be figured out by someone.
yeah, and also just stop stop thinking that you're alone because you're not. You
Right.
know, if you're in a situation where you're being abused, they make us believe that nobody cares, you know? They make us believe that, you know, nobody gives a F about you or your kids. No, there's somebody that cares out there, you know?
Yes.
I care. I care. I'm like I said, if I would be able to like bring everybody into my house, I would if I could, if that helps, you know, if it's gonna help you save your life, please come to my house, you know, call me, you know. Um, but it's just so hard to open your mind when you're in that situation. It's so hard to see ahead. You know, it's so hard to understand that you are able to do it. Yeah, it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy at the beginning. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to do everything that you want to do, but hey, as long as you have peace, that's all that matters. As
Right.
long as you have peace. Um, I just don't I wish I could understand why Reese stayed. I wish I could understand, but I know that it was just controlling more than anything.
Right.
It was just that control, you know, that for whatever reason they have it on us. You know, they have some type of control that I can't put a word on it. It's just fear, I guess. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what it could possibly be. But for me, it was fear.
It
It
is.
was fear.
And I do believe that my sister loved him, you know? So,
That's another thing. When you still care for that person, you still feel like you can help them,
right.
you know? When you still care for that other person, you feel like, oh, I could help him, you know, he was just drunk for that night. And then the following morning, they act totally different. They want to act like nothing ever happened, you know, in certain situations. Because in my situation, here lately, it got where he was angry 24/7. No matter what I did, he was angry 24/7, you know? In my situation, it was like no matter what I did, he was still angry. But I'm sure that he had his ways. I'm talking about
Yeah,
Carrie now. I'm sure Carrie had his ways to try to manipulate her and bring her back.
absolutely.
I'm sure Reese was ready many times to walk away, but I'm sure Carrie found ways to bring her back because that's what they do. They're narcissists. They know how to work and pull strings and have us in this situation where we believe that they're going to change, but it just gets worse and worse.
Right. Well, you are the one of the bravest people I've ever met. So I am honored to have gotten the chance to meet you. I wish it would have been under better circumstances. And you and I and my sister were all going to a lunch in Houston and having a grand time. But regardless, you are very special to me. And I hope that our friendship lasts for, years to come. And I'm always here for you. And I just applaud you and hope, great things to come for the rest of your life. You deserve it.
Thank you, thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored. Like I said, I'm honored to call you my friend, Mary. And I'm always here for you too. Like I said, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have been there for Reese. I wish I could have just went to her house and got her out. But, I just, like you said, I did what I could whenever I was able to talk to her. But I'm glad that I was able to meet her get to know her as a person. I'm glad that, we were able to share our stories. And I'm glad to know that whatever's being said out there about her, it's not it. That's not what happened. Reese was a great person. She was very friendly. She made you feel very welcome, very successful in business, intelligent, like you said. I mean, Reese was just amazing. And the people they were able to know her at a personal level,
Yes,
they know.
they do.
And like I
She
said, I'm
she kept her promise because she got you out, and I give all the credit to her, um, as well as to you. You're the one that took the steps to, get your children and yourself in a situation that you're happy now. I see it, I hear it, to talk to you, 2+ years ago to today, it's a world of difference. So keep going, girl.
yes,
I love you and thank you so much for being part of the show.
I love you too. And like I said, I'm here for you when you come to Houston, even though my driving is crazy, but I'll get you through, okay?
That is true.
I'll
All of
get
you
you.
in Houston drive a little interesting. So,
I'll get you to your destination sound and safe. I'm safe.
all right, I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, well,
Thank
take care, okay? I love you. Thank you so much for everything.
Bye bye.